Again, I'm Dr. Pamela Crisco. I am one of the board members of the Canadian Psychedelic Association, and I am really honored to present this fine group, Brainwaves, Frequency, and Healing, who are joining us here today. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and I'm going to sit in the background and just enjoy their fine offerings here. So, Philip, I will hand it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pam. It's amazing to be here. Thank you for having us here, and thank you for organizing this event with us and my colleagues, Dr. Miles Neale and Phil Wong. We are here to talk about brainwaves, frequencies, and healing. And I'll just give a little bit of an introduction, and then I'll let Miles introduce himself, and then Phil can introduce himself. And then I've got a bit of a presentation to walk us through to prime the mind for the experience, so we can maybe understand what is happening inside of us with the sound waves and the sound demonstration. So I've been fascinated with sound and frequencies and music for my whole entire life. I'm a musician. I've been a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. Studied and practiced, still practice medical qigong, and do a variety of things with vibrational medicine, with the plant medicines as well. And I've got so curious about the bio-neurochemistry and biology of the brain and how the brain works, from my own journey dealing with multiple sclerosis and some other range of mental health issues and all those things, and finding that frequencies are so important to help the nervous system reestablish its grounding and its full potential. And we want to demonstrate that here today. But I'll pass it off to Miles first, and then Phil, and then we'll get started with the presentation. During this time, adjust your volume, adjust like where you're going to be to receive the knowledge. And just so you know, this is being recorded, so I'm going to flip through the slides pretty quickly. But you'll be able to stop it on the recording if you need to. So there's that. So Dr. Miles Neale.
Thanks, Phil, and good evening, everyone, wherever you are, far and wide. Very pleasure to be here and a pleasure to share this experience with you. I'm a big fan of Phil, and if you haven't heard Phil's vibe tonight, you will surely not forget it. Psychotherapy is going through, as many of us know, a tremendous renaissance, and we've broken through new frontiers, particularly with psychedelics and the psychedelic revolution. But sound and energetics and bioenergetics are also part of the new frontier, and so I'm very, very pleased to be collaborating in some experimental work with Phil for a group of my own students. I'm by training a psychotherapist. My orientation is in contemplative methods from ancient India and Tibet. I do a lot of work around visualizations and the neuroscience of visualization and using those ancient methods for contemporary trauma healing. But it wasn't until my collaboration with Phil, the use of sound, harmonics, and resonance combined with the visualization techniques and ancient mantra did I feel like we were stumbling on some very, very rich territory. Of course, nothing is definitive right now. I would call it somewhat on par as a psychedelic experience without substance. But the jury is open, and your feedback, of course, is essential in us fine-tuning and refining our methodology. So it's a deep gratitude that we have a little bit of a taste tonight. And with that, I'll pass it on to Phil. Thank you so much.
Thanks. I guess I'm up next. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. My name is Phil Wong. I've been into the cannabis industry for the last 5 years as a writer, social media. I've done different things in that light. For me, cannabis is a big part of my life, and finding different ways to push those boundaries have always been an interest of mine. I've been a big fan of Wim Hof and sound bowls, listening to different artists, and it really resonated with me. And then I had an opportunity, and I met Phil this summer doing a Wim Hof sound bowl thing. And that just fascinated me, and me and Phil started talking, and as a content creator, I just kept on peeking because I see like a lot of good that he's doing and I'm looking at different ways to create a final document or something. I think it's really fascinating the things that this brings together, and proving the science, and putting together a project like this with the group is a passion project of mine. But I think a lot of good will come out of it, just to prove the science behind it and what it can do. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Dr. Miles. And thank you everyone for your curiosity. I find this absolutely fascinating, these things. So I'm just going to share my screen here. All my windows there. So I'm going to start here, and just somebody let me know if it pauses or freezes and things like that. So here we are. I'm doing this presentation on brainwaves, frequencies. Let me figure this out here, and healing. And let's get into.
Phil, did you launch? Did you just press play?
I did, but it paused. It's totally paused again. Okay, well, can you see that now?
Yeah, you're in the setting that we sort of see what your dashboard is, but it's something, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll work with that. It's a better screen space anyway. So these are two of my favorite quotes from some very familiar people in this field of sound healing and vibration. I'm going to read them. Sound is the force of creation. The true whole. Music then becomes the voice of the great cosmic oneness, and therefore the optimal way to reach this final state of healing. Hazrat Inayat Khan. And the next one, sound is the carrier wave of consciousness, Stephen Halpern, PhD. And just listen to those words resonate as we understand what sound is capable of, and the vibrations and what we're going to explore today. So we're looking at now brainwaves and states of consciousness. So music and sound, we know, has the ability to open up and develop the potential of left and right hemispheres of the brain, as well as balancing their function, and we'll get into that. So by using specific brainwave frequencies, we're able to change the state of consciousness we're in. We know that too. I want to define hertz right now, because when we look at brain waves, we're going to look at cycles a second, or we're going to say pulses, like the waves. So hertz, just know this, hertz means cycle a second, okay? So this is the lowest brain wave. Let's say the lowest is slowest. So that, what we're seeing on top here, the delta brain wave, resonates between 0.5 hertz and 4 hertz. And this is the visual of what it looks like. So it's like almost 1 peak a second. And these are used for detached awareness, healing, and deep sleep. And then in the recording, you can go through the rest of the slides here, the information there. The next one is theta. That's 4 hertz to 8 hertz. And these are averages, right? So we're talking about a wave, and as the wave increases, it's not static. So it just blends as it rises, and it gets faster and faster and faster. So these brain waves are deep meditation and daydreaming, and used for, and Dr. Miles likes this, visualization, imagery, lucid dreaming, deep meditation, improved memory, and enhanced intuition. So we'll look at the next brainwave, so that cut off at the top there. So the alpha brainwaves, 8 hertz to 15 hertz, and you can see the cycles in seconds. The pulses are getting more frequent and closer together, but can be used for relaxation, introspection, quiet alertness, creativity, and visualization. And so note that these were the brain waves, these were some of the easily observed and first to be discovered, these brain waves, when they were picking them up. So they can be found in activities such as yoga, just before falling asleep, being creative and artistic. Then we get into beta. So you notice they're getting more frequent. And the description of beta, 15 hertz to 32 hertz. So that's pulses per second. Just imagine that if you can. The beta state is associated with peak concentration, heightened alertness, hand-eye coordination, and visual acuity. So I'll just let you read quickly there. Making decisions, solving a problem, focusing on a task, learning a new concept. And then we get into the fastest brainwaves that we know of, the gamma brainwave state. And these are associated with heightened perception, learning, and problem-solving tasks. And getting into we'll say dimensional hyper concentration and the awareness, heightened awareness. So this next slide here sort of puts them all together so you can have a look. So we get past all of that. So from a top down, we've got the gamma at the top, and delta waves, fourth down, the alpha third, and then theta second and delta first. So the delta are more slow. So what I started to understand in Chinese medicine about flow, the body is responding to flow or qi, and if there's any sort of disease that is occurring, it's due to some sort of stagnation or stuckness or slowness, and that's due to either too much exertion or just not having enough energy. When we look at the delta waves, they're very, very relaxed. When I started to understand about flow, I started to, in my own practice, correlate that with more depressive, lethargic states. So if there's some sort of thing happening inside of the person that we're working with or self that is related to like slower pulses and things like that, these are probably going to be a little bit more active, these delta waves. But if we come up to the gamma, there's a lot of energy up there. You can even see just in the space of 1 second how many pulses are happening. And when I was noticing that, there is a propensity to anxiousness when we're in that state for too long. But if it's harnessed appropriately or grounded, and we'll say like a well-rounded brainwave state, we can access these states in a healthy manner. So the next slide, we're getting into neuroscience and sound therapy. So quickly here, this is what a regulated nervous system looks like. You have a sympathetic arousal and you have a parasympathetic arousal. So the parasympathetic arousal is probably going to be more delta, if you remember, and the sympathetic arousal is going to reach up to the gamma. That makes sense? Dysregulated nervous system, peak, valley, peak up here, stuck on a high, not grounded, stuck on a low, has no energy, and it's just up and down, right? When we're talking about trauma or anything that's happening, we look at these things and we just understand, well, what are we going through? What's happening? What do we need to balance? All right. So if there's something stuck on a high, we want to be able to have the system be comfortable to relax back into a regulated state. But if it's constantly on a high, that's the normal. That's its baseline. We know that from a health and wellness perspective. And the same with the low. So then I started looking even deeper with Chinese medicine. This is where I really, really get excited. We can look at health and wellness in three components. All I don't like to because it's not separate, right? But from a tangible point of view, it's just different levels of qi or energy. So we look at physical manifestations. We call it in Chinese medicine. We have the physical as jing. It's the most condensed qi. And then the emotional manifestations. It's the qi itself. It's the energy that is moving. And then the spiritual manifestation is it which by it moves, the energy. So we could look at all of those things. So we can approach it by the manifestation or by what the client's choice or who we're working with in health and wellness. So next slide here. We take a look at the brain itself, and we relate it back to what I was just talking about. The brain stem is responsible for the physiology in a nutshell. And this is how I broke it down, right? So the brain stem is the physiology. The limbic system is all about emotions, memories, and thoughts. And the cortex is all about executive functioning. And it's all related to Jing, Qi, and Shen, different aspects of energy, or different forms, or different states. And we're going to have a look at the brain really quickly here. So this is what the brain stem essentially does. And I'll just read it quickly. So physical biology, regulation of heart rate, breathing, sleeping, eating, all the information relayed from the body to the cerebrum and cerebellum, and vice versa, has to travel through the brainstem. And the brainstem's function is all about what is safe and what is not safe. If it's not safe, I got three choices. I'm going to run, I'm going to freeze, I'm going to fight. And if it feels safe, then the system is going to relax. So let's move on into the limbic system. We got the Qi. This is where the thoughts and memories and emotions occur, and they are stored. Formation of memories. And the most important thing I want you guys to take away from this part is that when the brainstem does not have enough information to decide what is safe and not safe, this is where it comes to. So it comes up to the next level going, what is this similar to? Is this similar to when I was 5, when I was 16, or whatever that was? And then it delivers a response through the nervous system. And then the third layer, the cerebral cortex, is all about higher awareness, executive functioning. So with stress and trauma, we know that the cortex is not as accessible when these things happen. So when trauma is repeated and wellness is the baseline, there is a loop and the autopilot is on, and I consider it in my work, it's just the brain stem and the limbic system working together just to keep the being safe, keep the body safe. So let's move on. So that's a quick synopsis of the brain. It's the central nervous system. So once the brain has figured out what it's going to do, it delivers a signal, and there's a parasympathetic branch and a sympathetic branch. And we know that the sympathetic is all about the fight or flight when the sympathetic response comes on, or we can say the hyperarousal. And the parasympathetic is the hypoarousal, where the system calms down. If I'm too parasympathetic, I'm most likely in delta states, if that makes sense. And if I'm too sympathetic, I might be too in gamma states. And these things started to really, really, really make sense when I dove into it, and then understood that this vagus nerve, so cranial nerve number 10, makes up over 80% of the parasympathetic nervous system, and is responsible for the regulation of all the internal organs. And I'm going somewhere here, so follow me. Every organ is innervated with this nerve. Okay. 2 branches of this nerve are really, 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 really important. Is the auricular branch of the vagus nerve, goes up to the ears. It's in the earlobe. The vagus nerve, branch of the vagus nerve. And then the second one, I get really excited. You can hear it. The vagus nerve, the pharyngeal branches, which is in the vocal cords. So I come to understand with sound and frequency that in ourselves we have the ability to regulate, just by using our voice, talking our truth, speaking our truth, and being truthful to ourselves. And the auricular branch is where we hear. And that kind of makes sense when we're listening. We're listening to frequencies. What are we taking in? It's affecting the nervous system. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to demonstrate. I've got a brainwave thing that I'm going to do in a few moments. But here's the anatomy of the ear, right? So the earlobe has the branches of the vagus nerve. And then inside it's cranial nerve number 8, which is the vestibular cochlear nerve. And the vestibular nerve, there's 2 nerves. The vestibular nerve is primarily responsible for maintaining body balance. Just let that sink in for a second. Body balance, the whole thing. And eye movements, while the cochlear nerve is responsible for hearing. So it's also helping like where we're seeing, like what we're looking at. So from a balance point of view. Okay. So let's look at inner resonance of ourselves. The heartbeat is 40 to 120 beats a minute, which is the equivalent to 0.6 to 2 hertz, which is delta brainwave range, which corresponds with the brainstem function. Right, the brainstem function is responsible for the regulation of the heartbeat. So in these brain waves, I started to sort of understand. I'm like, okay, so in these waves, we're affecting the biology. Right, there's something happening with the biology. So these frequencies and these hertz are really, really helpful. Hertz, I mean like cycles a second, are really, really helpful for calming the body down. You know, really helping the body relax and become vulnerable, and let the resonance resonate and vibrate what needs to come out and what needs to balance itself. So I found this. I didn't buy it, so this is from Adobe stock. But I want you to see this. Just take this visual in. Of the lungs and the heart working together, that vibration, that is a vibration. Even with the lungs expanding, that is a pulse. The inhale and the exhale and the heart beating is a pulse itself. So if we brought our awareness to our heart and our breath, just that, with brainwave entrainment, and this fantastic word that I came across the other day, neurovascular coupling, which means if there's an intention in your mind and it's directing a thought or whatever, the blood flow has to go there too, which is your chi and your blood, and that is your heart and your lungs working, and it's bringing yourself into those delta states. Very, very calm. Very, very calm if we just tune into our own vibration. So right now, I want to talk about binaural beats. If you're here, you probably heard of binaural beats and acoustic beats. So acoustic beats is a slight interference pattern, and this is where I'm going to start demonstrating with the bowls, so it gets a little bit more experiential. So I want you during this demonstration too to adjust your volume, which is going to be, suitable for the experience, which is going to be probably about 40 minute experience. So I'm going to play this crystal bowl here. And in acoustics, a beat is an interference pattern between 2 sounds, right? So we want to use the frequency between 2 sounds, which is like relational almost, right? The relational work that we do. 2 sounds of slightly different frequencies perceived as a periodic variation where the volume whose rate is difference of 2 frequencies. So just have a listen. I'm going to use my voice as the other note. So that wave or that pulsing, when I was singing slightly different than what the crystal bowl is creating a beat, which is the interference pattern. And a binaural beat, we're getting into binaural beats, is an auditory illusion, and it works more effectively with headphones. So in person, you're more likely to get, without headphones in person with these experiences, you're more likely to get the acoustic beats. But with headphones, you get binaural beats, because we can deliver one tone in one ear and one tone in the other ear. Let me demonstrate that with these two bowls here. Hopefully everything is coming through in stereo. And just remember to breathe. And I want you to tune into that almost hovering, that wave, the ripple. Just tune into that. So just take a breath for a moment. So I'm going to stop sharing this here. And I'm going to demonstrate on my iPad. So I'm just going to join the meeting. There we are, hi down there. And I want to share this. Give me 2 seconds. So this is an app called Mind Monitor, and this is where it gets really cool, right? Because we talked about all the frequencies and all the brain, and I'm going to show you my brain waves while I'm doing sound, and then at some point Dr. Miles is going to jump in with a guided visualization, so maybe that you can see a shift in my brain waves. But I want to demonstrate. I'm going to put this on. So I'm just going to I'm turning the device on. So this is a Muse, like, first generation headset. It's not the best, but it works. It works for the purpose. So it's not picking up anything, right? There's no activity or anything like that. So I'm going to put the, just give me a second here. And you'll see down there. Okay, so it's now it's active. It is. It's so fascinating. And you know, when I started talking to Phil and my work with Miles, we were playing around, trying to figure out like how to explain everything, and then I found that I had this. And I was like, okay, so let's see if we can do something with this. So you watch my brain waves, these are mine, as I start talking, and then based on what we talked about, you'll know what's happening inside of me. All right, so we can refer back to those slides. I'm not going to pull them up right now, but you understand that the delta are supposed to be the low, slower, and the gamma are very, very high. And you're going to see, I'm going to show you right here. So I'm going to stop breathing for a couple of seconds and watch what happens to my brainwaves. Pretty crazy. Amazing that we can observe that. Oof. Let me breathe. I know. And then watch when I start doing some nasal breaths here. So we're proving that it's working. And you can see a slight rise. And then you can see like an increment as I'm breathing, a pulse in the brain waves, right? Now You see, it's peaking now. The oxygen's getting to my brain, so you can see all this rising up now. But so I want you to focus on, like, see how disparate they are right now, right? See how far apart they are. And we don't know. This is the first time we're exploring, and this is. I'm supposed to fire your imagination up here, right? This is what I'm put on this earth for, is to light the fire inside of you. So the idea is to, when there's a certain state happening, is there frequencies, and what are the things that we can do? We understand about the hertz and the different brainwave states that we can do this. So just as a demonstration here, just watch what happens when I start playing. Fascinating. So, and then also right now, because you're experiencing the sounds with me, what is happening for you inside? So, Delta. It's so fascinating. But like, when I did it, and I'm going to show you again, there's a few brain waves that sort of got together, right? You watch this. There's a few. They're starting to sync up, and it's the theta, alpha, beta, gamma. The delta is like my body is like on fire right now. It's like so excited. So it's going to do probably all the kinds of peaks. And the decibels is the volume at which the brain wave is occurring. All right. So I'm glad you guys are liking this, because this is what I like to do. I can think about this in my spare time. Yeah. And then the work, and then it's just like doing this work and presenting to you. And thank you guys for being people, souls, beautiful people, for being so open to hearing about this. We wanted to do this. So just watch what happens to my top four, or my bottom four in this case, theta, alpha, and beta, when I play the sound. Right? They start to like just act together, right? So it's not being in one state or the other. It's being whole with all of the brain waves, right? Like watch them sync up right now. It's crazy. I'm like, I didn't believe it at first. I'm like, no, this isn't happening. And I'm like, yeah, it's really, this is happening. And then I feel inside, like I feel like oh my God, all the nervousness and the anxiety from the presentation is dissipating, and it feels really good. So I'm going to take each and every one of you on a journey, and it's up to you. Like, you can watch this, or this is going to be recorded, so you can have the experience. I prefer you to have the experience first, and then we can talk about it afterwards. But it's totally, completely your choice on what you want to do. And then adjust your volume accordingly, because I'm going to play around with the beats, and you're going to really feel them. And from a self-care point of view, just remember to breathe if you need to stop or take a break, because these can be pretty intense as far as what it can even awaken. As we talked and we looked in the brain with the certain structures from the cortex with the limbic system, we are creating an openness that we get to have a look at what's there. So be kind to yourself. Be gentle, remember to breathe. And then at the end, there's going to be time to share, and very, very excited to hear what Dr. Miles is going to help us visualize. And I'll give you the cue, my dear friend. So if you just want to close your eyes wherever it's most comfortable. Blankets. And we're going to take you on a journey of your mind, your body, and your soul. Just gently breathe in and gently breathe out. Just enough to know that you're breathing. The coolness of the inhale and the warmth of the exhale.
Hey you, noble one. You have been on a long, beginningless journey. A treacherous pilgrimage. Weak and weary. Now it is time to return home. You are not this body, nor this mind. This life is but an illusion. A reflection in a pond. A drop of morning dew. Fear not, noble one. Consciousness is indestructible. And everything is consciousness. There is no separation. No end, no beginning. No me, no other. No past, no future. Hey, you noble one, it is time to return to source. With each breath, let go. Let go of this life. Like a great embankment sliding into the sea and dissolving. City, country, planet also begins to dissolve. The great continents and ocean dissolving into light. The megacities and transportation systems dissolving into light. Your dwelling, your bedroom, your office, melting into light. Every atom of your body now dissolving. Melting into light. Let go, let go, let go. Noble one. And enter like a drop into an ocean of light. Brilliant, luminous, transparent, all-pervasive, without horizon, without contour, perfectly still. Consciousness and energy become one. Breathe. Remember, this is who we truly are at the level of source, consciousness, energy, Shiva Shakti. Knowing this, noble one, now we can play like an artist. We can build like an architect. We can compose like a musician. A new life, a new world. Rise up now, noble one, and take form like a being made of light. Rise from the vast ocean of energy and consciousness as a being made of light. Noble one, find yourself now at the center sanctum of a great and holy place. Wherever it might be, a place of childhood memory, a place of spiritual destination, a place of love and admiration. Like a dervish, take a 360-degree swirl and see this place. Smell this place. Taste, touch, and feel this place. And draw from it the sacred stream of inspiration, filling you in waves of harmonic resonance. Wherever you may be now, noble one, inhabit and populate your sacred place, your sanctuary. See your loved ones, your children, your friends, your family, all made of light, surrounding you. There is no past, there is no future. Ancestors are also welcome. Invite them in. There is no hierarchy. Invite all the spiritual beings. Let them populate this space. Animals, creatures, large and small. Beautiful medicinal herbs, sacred waters, estuaries, streams, rivers, and oceans. Sacred winds, old as time, whispering sacred teachings. Draw in the light, noble one, let it fill you. Together we will build new earth. A place made of compassion, love, virtue. Without first seeing it, noble one, it cannot be built. See it now in your mind's eye. Every living being free, happy, safe and contented. The rainforest's vibrant, the ocean's pure, the crops abundant. Everything as it should be. In the beginning there is the Word, and the Word is God. Let's all vibrate in unison now with the sound of 3 ohms, impregnating vision with vibration. Join us. You are the creator of every world. You have that power, and with power there is responsibility. May everything you create be sourced in virtue, integrity, generosity, kindness, patience, tranquility, and wisdom. Before we return to form now, noble one, pray from the deep depths of your heart that together, consciousness itself will create a new world. And like that, one by one, the ancestors return to their sacred abode. Creatures and animals, each to their domain. The rocks, the boulders, the streams, the oceans, all dissolving. The loved ones, friends, family, likewise dissolve. Finally, our own angel body, made of light, shimmering, vibrating, pulsating, returns to source. From multiplicity back to oneness, one taste. Back to Shiva Shakti, non-dual. riding the waves of our aspiration. Return to your illusory body and to the illusory world. Back into your body and back into the mirage-like world. Feeling your toes, ankles, shins, and calves, Noble One, consciousness reanimating the body, pelvis, abdomen, chest, neck, jaw, and crown. Come back, come back, come back. Breathing evenly, feeling the weight of gravity. The world returns as before. The room, the dwelling, the street and city, the country, continent, planet, solar system, and universe. But now there is no more misunderstanding. Appearance has been seen to be openness itself, a vast play, a dream. Noble One, the time has come for your sacred mission. As banker, teacher, mother, father, police officer, and nurse, fulfill your mission. To rouse beings from their slumber of separation. And to remember that we are all one.
Just gently bringing your awareness to your breath. If you need to change position, like rolling on your side for a moment. And just breathing and just knowing where you are. And thank you, Dr. Miles, for that amazing visualization. There we go. Just breathe nicely. You mean the world to me. I hope that you can see my wishes. You are free in all the things you can be. Can you spread your wings and fly? The haters will pass you by, and you will be as you will be, flying and being free. So let it be. We are already free, but we don't know it yet. Sometimes we forget who we really are. Some take their the pain that they can't rid themselves in this lifetime. Only we can save the helpless with the brave. Onwards we will go, the greater we will grow. So let it be. You are already free. You don't know it yet. Sometimes we forget who we really are. So just gently stretching your toes as you breathe. Bringing your awareness up your legs. A gentle stretch in through your knees into your lower back. Inhaling all the way up your spine. Exhaling through your shoulders, down your arms to your fingertips. Doing a nice light body stretch with your hands raised above your head. Stretching all the way down to your feet. Inhale, exhale. And as you let go of the stretch, you're going to bring your awareness up to the top of your head. You can gently, gently open your eyes if you already haven't. And come back, I am so grateful and honored to be presenting and having this experience with all of you open-minded people. And thank you, Dr. Miles, for joining and providing that fabulous guided visualization. And right now, we sort of want to open it up to questions, sharing of the experiences. Just to note, I'm going to turn my screen, the iPad with the brainwaves off. You can tell what's happened to me from where it was. Like, my deltas were in the hundreds. So apparently I've calmed down a little, just to say. So I'm going to turn that off now. It's a great visual. And that's exactly how we heal. Yes. Yeah. So let me just turn that off and we can get back to normal screen here. Wonderful. Oops. There we go.
Well, thank you so much. That I have not felt that relaxed in a long time, and I can see in the comments that people are going to be listening to this recording again and again. It was amazing. Do you want to add anything before we jump into questions?
No, I turn it over to you because now I'm going to take the headband off. But I can talk a little bit about my experience from presenting into going into the sound and dropping into the frequencies, and then just watching my whole system, level out. I think even in tones wise. So we got to understand that we can release a lot of things just by toning and using our voice, as we learned with the vagus nerve. So, and I think somebody had said in the messages, like, this is how we heal. Yeah, when we calm down.
Exactly. And it's no surprise that this comes from traditions that have been around for 2,000 to 5,000 years. Chanting, toning, deeply from any kind of ceremonial backgrounds that all of us would have come from. Whether that is Buddhist, or whether even in Christianity, you go and sit and listen to the monks singing, and these low tonal levels. And I used to, as a physician, I delivered well over 500 babies, and we knew in the delivery room that when women really got into those low tones, they really dropped the discomfort that they were in, and really got into this really wonderful base space of connectedness.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. It's amazing what you can do with your own your own voice. And I have a question: did it help with the actual not the actual delivery, but the when the baby emerged with the low tones, or did the tones change?
Well, if I understand your question right, what I noticed is that when we up in those high tones, we're really activated, right? We're in that fight, flight, flee, amygdala's jumping in. What is wrong? And then you come down into those bass tones in the whether it's a home delivery or a hospital delivery, just seem to just calm everything down. And it was just something we did, but when you experience it here, you go, oh, duh. It's you don't, it's observational science to go, oh, yes, we're much more calm in that space. So there's a number of questions coming in, so let me take a look at them. Linda asks, she's interested in what you have to say about the Schumann wave.
The Schumann wave. It's the resonance, the Schumann wave. It's one of the frequencies that are out there amongst many other frequencies. But I'd like to hear what it resonates for you, as bringing into the dialogue what we know with the biology. How the Schumann wave could possibly affect the brain waves. So if you feel like unmuting your mic, whoever that was.
Linda, do you want to ask the question more specifically to make sure we're getting the what you're meaning to ask from that? I don't want to interpret. Oh, she can't unmute herself. Oh, okay. She can type. Okay, well let's let Linda type, and then we'll get into a few other questions here.
I can speak to like, there's a thing called brainwave entrainment. So if we listen to a certain frequency, if we tune into a certain frequency for some time, our brain waves will start to follow that frequency. So in our environment, wherever we are, that can definitely have some influence in this phenomena called brainwave entrainment. And then there's also this the term, the neurovascular coupling. When we do and we work inside of frequencies and resonances, we are creating blood flow and creating bringing oxygen and all the things that we need to into the nervous system. So the importance is like, how can we harness the Schumann resonance, or how can we teach to focus and harness into that? As we know in Taoist philosophies, and Miles, I think you can speak to this, that we are the reflection of the universe. So whatever we know that appears to be external, it's not. It's something that is in us, and then we need to tune into that and wake that part of us, a part of ourselves up. If that helps.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat too for everyone. I just snagged that off of Wikipedia to the Earth's resonance. So just a number of people saying, what does that mean?
Okay. Thank you.
There we go. Just so there's a definition there, so that we're making sure people know what we're talking about when we say that. So,
beautiful.
So Douglas asks, do we know if the waves are affected differently for someone listening versus someone singing?
I don't know. I have hypotheses around that, because in my experience, and this is where we want to go with this kind of project, is like to really understand, when we come together, we become one, right? So I'm assuming, and I don't like to assume a lot, I understand from brainwave entrainment and then neurobiology, that if two beings are together, the brainwaves start to sync up. So it would be similar. I think there might be a difference in sort of like the biological nervous response, because the player is playing, and there's some sort of like activeness, but on a whole, I think it would affect it very similarly, but the experiences might be different, like the memories or whatever shows up. So good question. Thank you for that. And Miles and Phil, if you want to jump in too.
And I would imagine too that before you guys jump in, I would just say, like, probably the actual study definitively hasn't been done, and we can still observe what's happening and say, it's likely that this is happening, right? And so, yeah, and maybe we'll never actually get the study that says 100%, but I think we can also trust. Do we feel better? Is this working?
Something
But
happened.
we can trust what we feel and what we experience, of course, right? We're all observational scientists all day long. All right. Bill, Miles, did you want to jump in on that?
I mean, one of the observations, not non-clinical, is just if anybody's seen two tuning forks. I mean, they're designed to pick up on the resonance created by the other. And there's, as soon as Phil hits a note, I think it strikes a chord inside of us because we're designed to pick up on that resonance. So I think there's something to the fact that we can all hit the same note. But then I think there is something to the variation, because Phil and I have done this kind of work in different kinds of populations, and inevitably there's always one or two where that note actually triggers some sort of decompensatory experience also. In other words, some people really like feeling relaxed, but it's not all relaxation. There are high notes, there's heightened emotion, you can feel ecstasy, you can get really up. You can hit lower notes and feel really, really open and really safe and really quiet. But depending on your background and if you have any trauma, either the high notes or the low notes can actually be really triggering. So Phil and I have worked in a couple situations where most of the people are having some far out experience, and then there's inevitably one or two that have been overly stimulated. Or I mean, it makes sense that if you're traumatized, for example, and your defense mechanisms have been rendered, your defense mechanisms have been lessened, then suddenly that's a terrifying predicament. So sometimes you can have these adverse effects. But I think in net, my hypothesis would be whether you're playing or you're resonating, there's something very similar happening, unless some sort of very personal chord gets struck that creates a different kind of reaction. That's what I would think.
Thank you, Miles.
So there's a lot more questions, but I want to ask one that came up as you were talking and before you started your demonstration. So, if you using sound to bring people into those brainwaves, so out of the amygdala, back, like out of the limbic system, and then back into the parasympathetic, I would imagine, and I follow all the studies on this, but I haven't seen it, but I would imagine hypothetically a really good study would be to have people, let's say, like do a low exposure therapy. Like, let's say you've been bitten by a dog. And so every time you see a dog, you're getting up into that limbic fight, flight, flee, freeze. But almost an exposure of the remembering of that event, but then using the sound to bring you into the parasympathetic. And you might be able to be in a space where then you can, unhook or uncouple that exposure. I wouldn't want to do that in a really big trauma, but I would really love to see the beginning of that. Have you worked with that in any of the therapy?
So in the sound is very amazing, because I often do work with activating, like consciously activating the nervous system, as well as and using sound as integrating and integrative processes. So the activation needs to be held right after, right? So if something's been activated, that's why I always at the end of these sessions ask if people need to share or just be witnessed in it. So the peripheral nervous system knows that it's here and now. It's not in the limbic loop where we can say. But with the activations, we can do all kinds of different frequencies when we awaken or open the system up. we can vibrate certain things. Well, I'll say certain things loose, but shake it up a little bit so we can really have a look at what's at the bottom of the bag, so to speak. We're having a peek in there, and then using sound. And it's like, okay, well, we don't have to do all of the work at once, but is there something prevalent that is showing up, sort of like a psychedelic journey? Well, not exactly like a psychedelic journey. What is the thing that showed up that is related, and we can ground in the intention for the work that we set out to do, and then that way we can work with the activation, and then, like you say, bring the parasympathetic nervous system online, so it can observe and be with what it is. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you think about, how we work with like therapies like internal family systems, that would be bang on with that. And then also other somatic therapies. I'm thinking like EFT, like tapping, how you could layer on these things and go, oh, here it's coming, it's still here. And now you can somatically release it, which is all integrative therapy. That is, the way we're approaching a lot of trauma and complex trauma right now. Let me get to some of the questions.
Sure.
Linda got, sorry, did you want to say more about that before?
No, it's okay.
No, okay. Linda put in a bit more information here. I was doing brainwave work with the Schumann wave registered on the monitors of beta, alpha, delta, theta. I understand it to be the resonance of the earth, and I am wondering what sound or tone I would use to experience that connection.
Oh, well, if I'm correct, the Schumann resonance is around 8 hertz. You can't really hear that low of a frequency. I think if I remember correctly, it's like 8 point something, and 8 hertz you can't hear as a tone. You hear it as a pulse at 8 hertz. Right, 8 cycles a second, but it's almost like a tick 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 tick, like that. So when we're trained, we've been trained, and I'm going to say trained and programmed to listen to sounds in a certain way that we can't actually hear those as sounds anymore. But it's more like a pulse, right? The earth has a heartbeat, and it beats at 8 hertz or whatever. I think it's 8 something. But that's the Schumann resonance. If we can tune into that, and it's a little bit higher than our heartbeat resonance, but there's definitely a vibration. It's tuning into. It's like listening to a drummer and trying to listen to the tone that the drummer is playing. If that makes sense. If a drummer's playing, if he plays fast enough, and it's like I guess it's a snare roll, it all of a sudden becomes like a single note. Right, but it's just like just fast pulses. But that's that. I hope that helps. Helps that become more malleable for you.
Douglas, asks, do we know if layering a sound bathing on top of the binaural beats has any additional effect or benefit?
Sure, the layers are going to create more of an intensity. So even in a chord, if you're a musician or have studied music at all, most chords have three or four notes in them, and each interval is creating a binaural pulse. So there's going to be a binaural pulse between the 1 and the 3rd, and there's binaural pulse between the 1 and the 5th, and throughout that. So you're creating all kinds of resonances. Almost, I'm going to say this, almost like raindrops on water, if that makes sense. And you're seeing all the ripples, and the ripples running into the ripples. So it becomes quite turbulent, but you can't see anything when it's too much. That makes sense. Okay. So it's sort of like you can create the wave just enough so that we can see. It's I won't go too much further with that.
You're great with the visuals, though. I like the visuals. This is very good. And does that, so Douglas continues, and does that wobble we hear the wave our brain is, I think, creating to sync the two tones?
Yeah, so great question. This is so fascinating, right? So Miles, I love you, Miles. Miles has been sending me, he's been researching all of the sacred sites for sound resonance, and I love it. And I'm researching all the resonant places inside our skull. And our skull is hollow essentially. The brain is a receptor and a, let's say, projector. It's a receptor and it sends out. I don't know how to say that. And with what's happening on either side of the ear with the binaural pulses, there's the cavity inside the skull, especially the sinus cavity. It's resonating chambers, and we're creating that. I don't know if anybody felt that sort of vibration in the head with some of the pulses, and we're creating that resonance inside. And the brain really has nothing to do but just go and that is relaxing into, I have all of these other frequencies that I have access to, and if I bring them all together and they're working all as one instead of just one, I'm going to feel so much better. So even after these sound baths, we feel relaxed, but we are also very in tune and very aware. If that makes sense too. So it's the balance of the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. I hope that answers your question.
I think so. Sebastian's question here, but what I'm going to say, I'm going to read out the question, but I'm going to say, whoops, there it is that we're gonna get these resources. So Sebastian's asking, I would love to incorporate this into my meditation. Any good resources to look into? And what I'm going to ask you guys is, if you'll get our team a list of resources, and feel free to mention some now, of course, we will post them with the show notes as well.
Sure.
So any resources you want to suggest right now?
Yeah, I look into binaural pulses and binaural beats, and then start looking for music that is designed that way. Not all music is designed in this sense. I look back at when it used to. Well, I wasn't alive at that time when it was just mono. The music that was coming out was mono, and then it turned into stereo. And then all of a sudden, we're getting different signals in the different ears, which created a whole different experience, right? So it's something that in your life and what you feel okay with, really, really selecting and finding the music that resonates with you. Start with that, and then start down the path of binaural pulses and binaural beat music. And there's different genres of that, and you can just research that. But it's something that you're going to have to be okay with introducing to your meditation as well. So it's going to be a bit of an exploration at first, but you will find it. But we're going to provide some resources.
Great. And I'm seeing a lot more of this on Insight Meditation. All of the meditation apps are clearly putting a lot more. Somebody anonymous says, could you touch onto why 432 hertz is considered to be better for instruments or music?
432, okay. I have a lot of thoughts, and I don't think time permits for all of my thoughts in this. Now, for 432, and we talked about hertz, right? We talked about hertz as cycles a second. So 432 is actually resonates as a certain note. And if you have a sine wave generator or something like that you can plug in the hertz and it creates the note, listen to 432 and what 440 sounds like. It's like when I was I'm still in a band and I play music. And the guitarist would always say, are you tuned to 432 or 440? So the difference between 440 and 432 for a guitar and is for that purpose was the difference between an E and an E flat. So it's a reference point. And then throughout history, I'm going to bring this into throughout history, there's been different standard tuning throughout history. So it came from 432, it came to 440. We understand that 440 can do and induce more of a sympathetic response, and 432 can induce more of a parasympathetic response. We know that in the difference of the waves, and then we look at 8 hertz, the 8 hertz difference. We're looking at Schumann resonance. So if we played 432 and 440 simultaneously, binaurally, we would induce the 8 hertz Schumann resonance right into the skull. Just food for thought.
Uh, okay, that's a mouthful of food for thought. I like that. Okay, three more questions, and we're gonna get you guys back, right? We're
Yes,
gonna have you back.
absolutely.
Okay, good. So maybe a couple of months, we'll get you on the schedule and we'll keep this going. Um, will using these techniques work as effectively in lowering or joining the brain frequencies if used regularly on a daily basis? Or is there a chance of building up a tolerance and the technique becoming less effective? That's a question from John.
Great. That's a great question. In my experience, how this works is very similar to psychedelic medicine. It is not similar. This is everything psychedelic. I'll get past that at some point.
Mind manifesting.
Yeah.
That's what it means. Mind
It,
manifesting.
mine. It is. It is. And music is. It's going to train the brain and the mind. So at some point, it's going to feel redundant because you're already doing it. If that makes sense. Okay, so but then at some point, stresses happen, and I haven't, sometimes I haven't been practicing as much as I should, and I feel off, and I'm wondering what's going on, and then it's like, okay, well, I haven't been practicing, so it's just like stepping back in, and the brain and the mind wants to be peaceful. I feel so. It's just a matter of practice. So the redundancy and you getting used to it, it's supposed to happen so you can do it yourself.
I like that. And you take it to the next level, right? So what used to be a step up, an enhancement becomes your new normal, hopefully. And then you got to enhance up to the next level, right? So that's why often people say, oh, I don't think it's working anymore, but they're operating on a way higher level. You got to take it to the next stage, people. Got to level up again. James asks, have you ever measured the heart rate variability with the sound healing?
I have not. That's one of the things that Phil and I had discussed initially in the project that we wanted to put together and observe these things, is to have the heart rate monitor, and then that would be so interesting to find out what the heart rate's doing compared to what the delta waves are doing, and the rest of the brain waves, because the heart has its own frequency. It's incredible. Right, it'll beat. Sometimes it'll be standing there and it'll start beating, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And it's like the heart picks up on things, and then that could deliver through the vagus nerve a response up to the brain. Right, so just having that communication is wonderful. But that's where we want to go, and through this we want to open it to invite people to help us get this kind of project going, so that we can bring this kind of education experience to people for the healing that needs to happen.
Okay, thank you. Are there any, Jared asks, are there any contraindications of using brainwave healing or sound bowls as we did today? Are there any risks or potential downsides we know for this practice?
There can be. So it has to be conscious. It has to be conscious, because it's again like free falling with a psychedelic. You can create a mass psychosis because we're waking things up, and then that becomes the new loop or the new normal, and that's what we don't want. So it has to be first and foremost conscious, and then there also have to be intentions, because the intentions are important to ground in what we need to accomplish in the work that we need to do. Music is very, very powerful. We know the nervous system is neuroplastic, and it's malleable, and we can, tear it down and rebuild the brain. It's like fantastic here. So I would say the only contraindications is unconsciousness.
All right. Well, thank you. Okay. A couple of winding up questions here then. How are you using this healing, or maybe you want to talk about what research I think the question from Doug is around what kind of research is out there, and people are looking to get involved in the research, volunteer for the research, and also wondering how else they can help you get this out to the world. And
sure.
Let you wind it up with that.
Well, I'll speak, and then I think I'll let Miles speak, and then I'll let Phil speak, because we're very, very passionate about this, and thank you for your offers to help and assist This is something that you can reach out to the CPA, reach out to myself, Phil, or Miles in this case, to just make yourself known, and then we can pull together. The idea is to get something very, very simple across, like I did today, so that people can understand very, very easily how effective this can be. And it's accessible because we all have some sort of resonance inside of us, even with the visualization. So I'm talking about people that are unable to use their vocal cords. The visualization still works in the nervous system. If the visualization could happen, the nervous system is responding. Even if we think a thought, or we think a sad thought, and we think a happy thought, the nervous system is responding. So it's so accessible if we understand how to do it. One of my favorite quotes from my medical qigong teacher, he's like, the best, most powerful note is the one that you can't hear. And I was like, what? In the moment, I was like, it has to be loud, right? Like, I'm all about like rock and roll and loud. But he said it's the one that you can't hear that's the most powerful. And even in our thoughts or whatever's subconscious that's resonating and vibrating, it's so whatever it is, this modality is so accessible for anyone and everyone to use at the moment if you know how to harness it. And Miles.
Phil, why don't you jump in? Phil Wong.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was great seeing all the different responses, and I think that's what we're aiming for. And that was my moment too, when I realized there's more to it than just the music. It clicks, it engages you, and it opens doors that you wouldn't have known otherwise. So a lot of your questions are what exactly we're trying to prove with our project, and go down that road, but make it fun and engaging in a way that it's like this, and we got some crazier ideas. But we're always looking for good people to bounce these ideas off of it and join our little project. We got a couple other things going down the road, but it's great seeing the responses, because this is exactly what it is. And Phil just did a fraction of what he could do, and you guys have no idea. Like, this is just a starting point, and you got great questions, and that's what we want to answer, and pushing this further. And I just met Miles, but already I'm connecting with him, and I can see he's got some really interesting, because I've got questions for you, Miles, just on what you were talking about. So, join us for the next one, and we just keep the ball rolling. And it's so much more positive than most people thought. My eye-opening moment, I cried like a baby for 6 hours. And I wasn't expecting it. My kids are going, "Why are you crying?" And you can't help it. It's just there, and you consciously accept it. And every time you meditate, there's more and more that you keep on learning. And I think Phil and Miles are way ahead of the curve, because I've seen some things, and it's like, wow, and that's what's motivating my passion to document this, because I think it's fun, it's fascinating. There's so many different ways you could go about it, and it is for everyone once you get that point of acceptance. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thanks, Phil. And there's a question there. Thanks for asking that, Phoenix. I'm doing a sound therapy certification in February. It starts on the full moon in Leo, for everybody that loves the full moon and Leos. I'm a Leo, so I'm like, this is great, perfect. And it's 5 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the Monday and the Tuesday. And it's 100 CEUs. I'm partnering with Daybreak Training and Therapy Seminars, and they work with the Canadian Psychotherapy Association and social workers, and so it's eligible for 100 CEUs, and that starts February 16th. Miles is a fantastic guest speaker. We're going to come in and talk a little bit more in depth about guided visualization and sound frequencies, and how important that is for meditation, and helping I want to say rebuild the right brain, but rebuild the right brain. in today's society. And we've got a special interview with Gabor Mate talking about his experience with sound and music and our work together as well. So that can be provided in the document that's going to go out to the people. So that's happening. I'm so excited about it.
It is an exciting time, and it really is about time that we use all of excuse me, all of our senses for healing. We are whole human beings, right? It's a no-brainer. That's where you do the drums, right? But it makes sense, right? Sound, smell, vision, everything matters. We are whole human beings, and we have evolved this way to use all of it. So I want to say we will get all this information. We will get information about the courses you have coming up, resources that are useful, and we will put those all in the show notes. And by that, what we mean is this recorded video will go up in about a week, and underneath it will be all the show notes of all these links. Amazing. If you missed anything, email our wonderful, what we call our chief of staff, Deanna at hello@psychedelicassociation.net. She'll answer any questions, and we're going to get you guys back in a couple months. Amazing. So I hope I'm asking as much as I'm kind of telling.
Yeah, I have to ask Phil Wong what his question was, because I'm going to go to bed like wondering.
No, and Miles, can you talk quickly about your program too that starts next week?
Yes, please do.
So Phil and Phil have their own project, and then Phil and I have a project. My project is a 6-week class that starts next week. It's based on Tibetan Buddhism and ancient mind science, training people in compassionate vision, how the Tibetans use visualization to reformat or rewrite or reformat basically their view of themselves in the world. Very deep science. Very timely science, but I've invited Phil because it is amplified. The process is amplified. It's almost like a turbo boost when you include the vibration. I've been doing this for 25 years, and just as Phil Wong said, he was in tears for hours. I've had that very same experience listening to Phil. So there's just something very powerful. But what will we do with it is really the question. And so that's where my course comes in, because it's really about training. There is a new world that's about to emerge. The systems of the planet are crumbling. There's no doubt about that. Psychedelics is emerging as a place to expand consciousness, but psychedelics is not for everybody. And so we've taken a soft approach, and sound and visualization and meditation may take longer, but they're designed from a cultural point of view to do the same thing, which is to reprogram vision and then to redesign society and make it more altruistic. And so that's a project Phil and I have been doing for over a year now, and we resume next week on Wednesday. The link is there for anybody who has an inclination towards more visualization. It includes a little study, includes, because of my background, some of the therapy and the psychology and the science. So it's very as a sort of eclectic kind of course. But thank you so much. And Phil, please, what were you going to ask? Because I'm just dying. I know we're out of time.
Oh, man.
What was it?
Yeah. Okay. So just how you're talking about that journey, going through that journey about how this world is unreal, and you're kind of going to the Matrix kind of thing, and it's just like, wow. I find it fascinating because I kind of know where you're getting at, because I've had these questions too. But yeah, basically it's just the duality of the worlds, and what you're discussing is like, wow. I think that's just, I want to discuss it further with you after this, because we can go on and on, Well, so I love your vision there.
The thing that's really important to remember, anyone who's done a psychedelic experience, is that you do see that the world is like an illusion. But if you go too far, you can drop off the other side of the world and see it as nothing makes sense. And some of us who are therapists have also received people who've done too much ayahuasca and not to have the container, and don't know how to reintegrate back in society, don't know how to have family relationships and continue with their job, because they've seen something profound, what the Buddhists would call emptiness or openness or vastness or oneness. But the integration is also vital, so that you don't drop off the deep end. You learn how to come back so that even though it seems unreal, it's real enough to engage with love. And that's the key. That's the key. it's open, it can be redesigned, but it's real enough, and it needs to be infused with love. I'll end on that.
Thanks, Miles. And it really
Thanks, Miles.
speaks to the importance of good therapy done well with good integration, good setting. But that's another conversation. So I want to say thank you to all the amazing volunteers we have at the CPA. Thank you, James. Thank you, Deanna, for taking care of our technical side tonight. Thank you, Phil and Miles, Phil squared and Miles. Thank you so much for being here this evening and giving such a wonderful treat and some science and some wonder and magic here to all of our members and guests. So thank you, and I look forward to having you all back again. Have a wonderful and safe evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.